All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, episode 1062, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everyone out there, as always, for listening, for watching, however you take in Talking Buffalo. I do appreciate you very much. Shout out to our sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. This is the midweek episode. As usual, I am joined by my good buddy over there at SB Nation, Matt Warren. What's going on, man? We got some OTA stuff that we're going to get into here in just a minute, but how you doing?
Yeah, everything's good. We finally got some sun in Western New York. But by the time you're going to listen to this, we're probably back in the rain. So just normal.
Listen, I have to say this, okay? I got to say this right off the bat. I'm going to let people know now. So we're going to talk plenty of Buffalo Bills. Last couple of days, it's been a lot about the Bandits. I know you're a fan of the Bandits. I might squeeze something in there a little later in the show. Really cool weekend for the Bandits and all those fans. But anyway, been talking a lot of Bandits, a lot of Sabres stuff. We are pivoting back to pretty much all Buffalo Bills and NFL talk today. And we'll talk about positional groups that might cause us the most concern. There might be another positional group that gets added after seeing some news that we just both saw on Twitter as we're recording this. My weekly reminder to everybody, Matt Warren and I record this late morning, lunchtime on Tuesday. So, some stuff might come on throughout the day that we don't discuss on the show. So plenty of Bills talk coming up today. But you just mentioned the weather. Can I, before we get going with the show, and I accept that I'm going to sound like a whiny little bitch here, okay? But I got to have a rant. I do. You just mentioned sunshine here in, we'll say Western New York, the area, because we don't live exactly, I'm in Buffalo, in the Batavia area. So it's not the same, but it's kind of the same. Sunshine, sure, fine. And then converting to rain soon enough. I'm sick of it, dude. I know you and I quip about the weather a lot. It's a great day. It's a sunny day. It's a rainy day. It's cold. Blah, 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 blah. We're in late May, okay? I'm over it, dude. So my daughter graduated from college almost 3.5 weeks ago now. And my wife and I decided that we wanted to have a graduation party. We have a nice yard in the house. We were going to do it at the very end of May, literally the end of May, Saturday, May 31st. Set that date. And I understand rain happens, okay? Rain happens everywhere. No matter where you are, that's a part where if you do something, if you plant something outside, you're taking a chance that it can rain. I get that, no matter where you live. But what I'm sick of is going on an app, and this Saturday, May 31st, the high temperature is supposed to be 56 degrees out. And it's the end of May. It's really weighing on me, man. It's really, really weighing on me. You've spent your whole life in Western New York, right? Like this region. Okay, this is not a diss to you or to anyone else. I promise you that. But after spending 5.5, close to 6 years living in Florida, and Florida's far from perfect. The heat's too much in the summer. It's so humid. It rains a lot, especially seasonally. And of course, hurricane concerns, stuff like that. No matter where you go, you can find something about the weather that could be a little concerning. But I feel like people who live in the Buffalo or Western New York region their whole life, or just this area, they just don't know any different. And you don't know what it's like to spend 250 to 300 days every year with sunshine. You know what I mean? I do believe seasonal depression is a legitimate thing for a lot of people. And it's just getting beyond that point to me. It's like, it's making me, here's what I'm saying. I love Buffalo, man. I love the people. I love the food. I love the community aspect of it. I'm getting sick of it. It's making me miss Florida. It's making me miss living in the South, where sunshine was a significant part of my life. You're lucky to get 2.5 to 3 months of good weather. I don't know, dude. Again, I'm sounding like a whiny little bitch. I admit it. But when it's the end of May and you're trying to have an outdoor party and you're concerned not because of the rain, but because it's too cold, it's just too much for me, man. It's really starting to get to me, dude.
Yeah, I don't mind the temperature so much. It's been the rain. Like if it was 60 degrees all the time, I'd be okay. But I run hot, so like I sweat all the time.
Yeah.
The the sunshine thing is very real. The whether it's the Great Lakes or whatever, like we get a lot of overcast days, and so there is not a lot of sunshine. I definitely feel you on that one.
I just it's difficult. Oh, also, so we moved back to Florida from Florida in 2021. We have an incredibly good friend that we made friends with in Florida. This woman, Michelle, she's coming to visit us. She's coming to the house Thursday night, and she's going to be here for the weekend. And again, it's the end of May. You think wear a t-shirt and shorts, walking around town?
No,
Not. It's just it's annoying, man. It's really, really, really annoying. Let's get no. I know people don't want to hear me whine and bitch about the weather. I accept that, but I can't help myself. I can't help. I just woke up and I went on my app and I'm like, come on, man. And I figured, if you're playing something at the beginning of May, you should expect that. But at the end of May into June, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that you expect the weather to at least be like in the mid 60s where it may rain, but you also could have a tent. I can rent a tent, get canopies up, things like that to combat that. But you can't combat being cold. So that shit just it really sucks. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Before we get into what we already were going to talk about
sure.
today, the Buffalo Bills, as we record this, are doing OTAs this week. This is the first offense versus defense, not contact, but where they could do drills against each other. We might see some reports later on Tuesday from the media because the media is allowed there today. They can watch, they can witness standard reporting rules for the media. But after today, they won't be allowed at practice. It'll be closed off, but they're there today. Anyway, quite literally minutes ago, as we're getting ready and we're starting this recording in real time, Sean McDermott is actually speaking to the media right now. A couple of notes that I want to put out there and get reaction from you on. Number one, James Cook is not there. That to me, I mean, if you are surprised about that, I don't think you've been paying a lot of attention for the last few months. I'm sure both of our viewpoints are the same. Who gives a shit right now? I mean, I prefer him to be there, but he doesn't need to be there. We all know why. We're not dumb. It's fine for right now. Sean McDermott was also talking. He was asked about Hard Knocks, and he said, I'm reading this right now, it was a compliment to be chosen by them and thinks the inside look will be great for the fans. I think Sean McDermott's full of shit, and he's just saying the right things to the media. He's not happy. I have heard that many players in the organization aren't thrilled about it, and especially the staff in front office for lots of reasons, which you and I will actually discuss here shortly. I'll ask you about that. But some news that is not big news per se, but it is certainly not. Let's just agree on this. It's not good news. In terms of who's not there, it's only James Cook. Josh Allen's played in a charity golf tournament. We already know about that for Eric Wood. It's a big fundraiser, 117 holes or some crazy, crazy shit
Yeah, it's a
like that
lot.
that they're doing. Yeah, it is a lot, man. I mean, I love me some golf, but wow. But anyway, they're raising money for charity. Here's the news, folks, and I'm sure you're probably by Wednesday have heard about this. Joey Bosa is injured. He has a calf injury. They are still, according to Sean McDermott, in the exploratory stage of learning about the injury. It looks like he's not going to be participating in any spring stuff here, OTAs, minicamp, and the hope is that he could be good to go for training camp. Again, this is on the fly news here that you and I really weren't prepared to discuss, but now that we're seeing this, what is your reaction? I mean, it goes without saying that Joey Bosa from the get go was a high risk, high reward type of signing to begin with. And it's easy to talk about the reward or think about the reward, but there is a high risk too. And we are literally seeing it right now here in late May. This is a guy who just simply put has not been healthy, and leg injuries have been part of the problem in the past. So here we are in late May, and yep, he's not good to go. That's concerning to me. What's your initial thought here in real time?
I mean, yeah, I'm obviously we were very concerned about his injury history, and we've talked about it, several times. A calf injury in May shouldn't linger into the season. It shouldn't impact his ability to be available for training camp or be available certainly for the regular season. So, I mean, I guess specifically talking about his injury today, I'm not too concerned about it. But like you said, it adds to that narrative over the course of a long period of time.
It does. It's concerning to me. I'm not gonna lie. It is definitely concerning to me. So is the punter wearing number 32 on the roster. I'm looking at the roster right now. Jake Camarda's got number 32. That's also concerning to me. But back to Joey Bosa. Um, look, you got to be able to count on him. And it could be a coincidence. I get it, but you know how it is, man. When you have a trend, when you have a pattern of things happening to you, the alarm certainly goes off. Let's circle back to him in some defensive end talk here in just a minute. But anyway, that was not news that I was expecting to see. Let's just put it that way. Just as we're getting ready to start recording. And Josh Allen is at today's OTA practice, by the way. So maybe he's kind of doing both with the golf thing. That's wasn't a big deal. Let's kind of pivot away from the Bills for a second into the league because this was something I was planning on asking you about. Kind of news is a little bit old now, but we didn't really discuss this yet. The owners' meetings last week, things were put to a vote. Two rules that I thought there could be a really good chance that would get changed, and it turns out neither of them were. Let's first talk about the tush push. The tush push was not banned, despite the fact that it seemed to be a lot of momentum and steam being picked up towards it being banned. I will say, not to call her out, but Diane Rosini's had a little bit of a track record of saying sources say that something's going to happen and then not happening. I'm just telling you what it is, man. But anyway, I was expecting it, especially after reading what she said to happen, and it did it. Two votes short. I think 10 people voted against it so it stays intact. What are your thoughts on first? We'll start there with the tush push. It's going nowhere. Thought maybe there might be a little bit of alteration to the rule or modification, but no, nothing. Philly's happy, obviously. The Bills should be happy. They were really good at it too. Are you happy?
I mean, I don't see the reason to ban it. I'm a data guy, and so like people claiming that there's a higher risk of injury or any of this other crap, like there's no data that supports that. And if teams go away from the tush push and then they hand it off to a fullback running closer to full speed, or they hand it off to a running back, or someone to slam into the offensive line, or the back of the offensive line trying to get the 1 yard, like that seems just as problematic. So I don't think that there's a data based reason to get rid of the tush push, and I've said that all off season. Um, Sean McDermott did say that even though the Bills voted for the ban, that they're going to play within the rules. So presumably they're going to keep using the tush push. On the reporting of it and all that, I do think that some minds were changed in that room that day. So
That's fair.
it was probably a razor thin margin to begin with, because I mean, like you said, they only fell 2 votes shy. And so if there were two people that were on the fence leaning to ban it, and then Jason Kelsey comes in and talks about how players love the tush push, he's like, if I could do 80 snaps a game just running the tush push, I wouldn't even be retired right now, stuff like that. And so hearing from the player perspective, I think probably could have swayed like 1 or 2 votes, and that's all they needed. So razor thin margin one way or the other, but I just don't see a reason to ban it. And I'm surprised so many other people do.
I I don't think it'll get banned until something happens on one of those plays. There will be at some point there will be an injury on that play, and when it does happen, I think that's when something could change.
But
Again, the
so they're
Bills
going
are
to
going.
outlaw QB sneaks. What I mean, are they going to outlaw QB sneaks too? Or are they going to outlaw, fullbacks, taking a short snap and running right into the back of the line? I just don't see where the line between tush push and just a regular quarterback sneak that Tom Brady did is a whole lot different.
And let's not forget, if you especially if you're a Bills fan here, I mean, the last image you saw of the tush push is not a good one because the Chiefs did figure it
Right.
out. But I also put that as much on Joe Brady for just not moving Josh Allen to going to the right side or more up the middle as opposed to going as far left as he did. But the Bills, by and large, were the second most successful team at running that last year behind only Philly. That was so, it was a play that worked for the Bills. It got a big ass quarterback in Josh. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know why I kind of wanted it to be banned. I don't even know because again, it was more beneficial to the Bills than it was to most teams. Shifting back, by the way, to Joe Bosa, I'm just reading a tweet here from Matt Perino. He said Bills defensive end Joe Bosa suffered a pulled calf muscle last week while training at the facility. So that's how the injury occurred. He said the injury will likely cost him the spring workouts, but Sean said he'll likely be ready for training camp. So that's where we're at right now with Joe Bosa. The other rule that I thought could get changed, that I thought should get changed, but ultimately did not get changed, playoff seeding. It's remaining the same. The push was for divisional winners to be guaranteed a playoff spot, but that's it. Not guaranteed a home game and then reseeding. Are you surprised that that stayed? Because the best rationale that I heard or that I read about it was week 18, there's a couple meaningless games that might not be meaningless if the difference that you're playing for is between, say, the fourth seed and the seventh seed. I think I remember it was the Rams game last year, could have meant something under those circumstances and a few others. But what are your thoughts on that? Playoff seeding remains the same.
At least there's like a valid argument for that one, unlike the tush push, what I was saying before. Like to your point, like more games would be competitive. You wouldn't see players necessarily resting. The in that week 17, week 18 range. So at least there's an argument for that. I'm more of a traditionalist in that way. Like I think that if you win your division, like winning the division, or sorry, it's always like what make the playoffs, win the division, win the Super Bowl is like your three goals that you write on the
Mhm.
board. And obviously, the easiest way to make the playoffs is win your division. I think Sean McDermott said that a bunch of times. So like, uh, if you're in the playoffs, like that's step one. And so winning your division to get that home game, I think does reward division winners, especially in say a tough division where there's three or four teams there's three or four teams that are really good in that division. And you're playing up to six really tough games a year versus dominating your division and just going 6-0. Like so it rewards teams from bad divisions to reseed it that way.
Let's I feel like this episode is just it's chaotic right now. Like I'm
Are we going
weaving
off the
back,
rails? What's going
I'm
on?
weaving, well no, I'm just saying I'm weaving back and forth
Oh,
between Bill's OTA stuff and Joe Bosa whining and crying about the weather, NFL rule changes. Now I kind of want to weave back into OTA stuff with it starting here on Tuesday. Again, most people listening to this on Wednesday. Minus the Bosa news, and again, I do not consider James Cook not being their news whatsoever. I mean, it's news. I guess it's noteworthy, but it wasn't unexpected. I'm completely, in line with it. Vince Carter is present, by the way, at OTAs today too. If you're interested in that, Bills minority owner Vince Carter is present. I'm following this stuff here in real time as we're talking. Is there anything whatsoever? And again, zero contact, but there are drills and things like that. Sean McDermott just said on Tuesday there ain't no depth chart other than Josh, of course. Which again, another live, but whatever. Is there anything at all when it comes to OTAs that you care about? Is there anything whatsoever that matters to you when it comes to OTAs?
Um, yeah, if you take the depth chart piece out, not really. No injuries is the only thing I really care about at this point in time. I know that the press can't report on who's running with the ones and twos on, say, the defense. So that would be interesting to me, but you have to be in attendance for that. They're not allowed to report that outside the building. So, I mean, we might see some folks get creative with that over the course of the next, day or so, saying, like, what are they like? So the Cole Bishop got a high five from I
Yeah.
don't know Christian Bedford after a play. Like even if you say that, like you could like get creative with it, like to say that he's with the starters. But yeah, that's the stuff that matters to me right now is who's getting run with the ones and who's injured, and we're not going to know about any of that stuff past today anyway.
I joke and I'm busting balls here when I say that the media people who are covering the team who have a podcast are going to talk about the most silliest things that mean absolutely zero come late July and into August, like Perino and Talbot on Shout Tonight, Sal, Mapove, all those guys who are there. But I will say they're going to have some anecdotes and things to talk about that we're not privy to because we're not seeing. So, I mean, I'm busting balls because it's kind of meaningless and funny, but they are actually there. So they'll have at least some observations. And hey, it's going to pass a couple days of Bill's news cycle. I guess that's what it what it comes down to. So good for those guys.
There's going to be a wide receiver that someone like has a really good day today, and someone's going to talk
Hmm.
about him for the next 6 weeks and until minicamp. Well, I guess minicamp's not in 6 weeks, but like it's in what 3 weeks, and so there's going to be some wide receiver that has a good day today that's going to get talked up for 3 weeks, and then we'll then the media can be in attendance. I think all 3 days of mandatory minicamp, and so then they'll get somebody else to talk about.
I do remember this time last year, Chase Claypool looked really, really good at
Yep.
OTAs. I remember several people having conversations about how good Chase Claypool looked in shorts and a t-shirt. By the way, with James Cook, just if people are wondering, this is voluntary OTAs. Mandatory minicamp is June 10th. So come
Sure.
June 10th, when James Cook, if James Cook doesn't show up, then maybe it's worth a little bit of a conversation. I still don't think it would be that big of a deal, but you want to see them there for something that's mandatory. And might give a little bit of insight to what training camp could become, the start of training camp anyway. So June 10th, we might know
Yeah.
a little bit more on that.
It's like less than $100,000 in total fines if they miss the 3 days of mandatory minicamp. So just putting that out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, James ain't rich by NFL running back standards. Apparently, all he is
We
due
know.
$5 million.
Yeah.
We all do know that. Yeah. Well, he is due like I think around five or something like that this year.
Yes.
Anyway, the jokes, the Joey Bosa jokes are also starting on Twitter. I
Oh,
got to throw this
yeah.
one out there. Save us Simmons. He's a hockey guy. I got to. This is funny. He says Joey Bosa will be celebrating the Sabres November 6-game point streak from a luxury box at the arena with a walking boot. I was like, here we go already, man, with this shit. Look, for me, there is one thing that, you said the depth chart, or Sean said the depth chart is non-existent right now. But there's one thing that I am really looking forward to starting today, going through minicamp, going through spring training, and obviously the preseason. Trey White, Max Harrison. I think Trey White is your for the second starter. I don't think they're just going to hand Max Harrison the starting job. They're going to want him to go beat out Trey White. What version of Trey White do the Buffalo Bills have here in 2025? Do they have the guy who looked awful with the Rams and adequate with the Ravens? Or do they have the Trey White that is now 2 years removed from a major injury, the Troy White that we saw in summer training camp with the Bills in 2023, who looked all the way back and was special? He looked great for that first month until he got hurt against Miami. What Trey White are we going to see? That matters to me. That's significant. And can Max Harrison wrestle away that starting spot from Trey White? Again, t-shirt and shorts, we're not going to know really much of anything. I would expect Max Harrison's going to blow you away in t-shirt and shorts because he's so damn fast. But how
Right.
does Trey look? That's what I want to know. That is the one thing that if the Matt Perinos and the Sales and all my guys out there are doing podcasts or writing articles over the next 48 hours or so, how does Trey White look? That's what I am interested in knowing right now. You kind of agree with that? That's a potential fun and relevant storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, the Trey White of it all is, super intriguing. And I fully expect him to be, the veteran in the room, the guy that's like, providing the baseline for what that position is going to be. But I think all of us really hope that Maxwell Harrison is probably
Yeah.
CB2 come opening day. As much as we love Trey, like I mean, we just hope that there's a higher ceiling than what we've seen from Trey White over the last 2 years.
Yeah, 100%. Not a question for you, but I did see an interesting stat shortly before we started recording this as well. It's from Over the Cap. The Buffalo Bills, like if you're wondering, like it feels like they have so much turnover on this roster right now. It kind of feels that way because of one or two positions where they really did a lot of reshuffling and adding. but the Bills actually have the third highest percentage of players returning in the whole NFL, 84.2%. Only the Packers and the Broncos are running it back at a higher rate than Buffalo. Does that surprise you a little bit hearing that? Because it does feel like there's a lot of turnover, at least on the defense. Offense is pretty much, hey, we're running this shit back for the most part. But yeah, third highest in the NFL, dude, in terms of players returning.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, though, like they have what they turned over one wide receiver spot. You look at the defensive line, like a lot of like how many starters are really going to be different in 2025 than 2024? It's like
Maybe zero.
two. Well, yeah, maybe. Well, it's at least one a cornerback. Um, but
Oh, I thought you said the line. My bad. I was talking
I
about the
was like
defensive line.
just like the whole thing
Oh,
all over. Like
yeah.
so, it's like you look at how many people are going to be different on the starters between last year and this year. And I just don't think it's going to be that many. I mean, you're hoping
Right.
that it's Cole Bishop at safety. You're hoping that it's, well, Maxwell Harrison, I guess, at cornerback. Josh Palmer's probably going to get starter level snaps. So, I mean, is he taking the first snap of the season? Who cares? He's probably getting, starter level snaps. But it's not a very long list of new starters. And that's just like, obviously the starters, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me a ton actually when I think about it. Yeah.
I look, man, dude, my memory's shot. All right. I do 5 of these a week and I'm losing my mind. If I'm correct, HBO Hard Knocks, we found out about the Bills. Didn't we find out about that after you and I taped last week?
Yes.
All right. So that
Yeah.
was all right. So I am right. All right. I'm not completely losing my mind here. You and I did not talk about Hard Knocks. So the Buffalo Bills, of course, are going to be the subject of this year's HBO Hard Knocks. What's your reaction to that? Because I have not asked you that. What's your reaction to that? What do you like, if anything? What do you like the most, and what, if anything, do you dislike the most about the Bills being on HBO this summer?
I mean, more Bills content's good. I haven't seen like complete seasons before. I've watched an episode here and an episode there of the previous versions of Hard Knocks, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm in for over the course of the entire training camp season. But it's going to
Mhm.
be nice to get an inside look at how they do business, or what they're looking for in say one position battle versus another. It's good to see a good team on there for once. It's one of the reasons I haven't watched it before. Is it's always been crappy teams on there that missed the playoffs the year before.
Mm.
It gets them out of it for the foreseeable future, so they don't have to worry about it again. It also, we talked about this with Sean McDermott, that he tends to, learn from his mistakes. He just
Yeah.
makes a lot of them. He makes a lot of them, right? And so at least it checks off one of those been there, done that things that they need. I mean, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I'm more kind of neutral on it. Sean McDermott has some comments on it today. We can talk about if you want.
Yeah, he's saying the right things from what I've seen anyway with the media. I don't think that the front office is they didn't want this. All right, let's put it that way. They're going to adapt to it. They'll do what they got to do, but I don't think they wanted it. I'm sure some players are excited about it, but I know that there's other players, including a certain quarterback who's the reigning NFL MVP, that is not exactly pleased about this, from what I hear. Um, I just if you were a player, okay, maybe it depends who you are. If you're Matt Warren, a 6th round pick who's trying to make the roster and you want to make a name for yourself, sure, maybe having a camera around could be pretty
Yeah.
cool. If you're Matt Warren, the star quarterback of the team who's got celebrity actress wife now, or maybe not even him, just a solid etched in stone player on this team. Maybe having a camera around you is not a great thing. I would be concerned. I talked about this a little bit with Yurden yesterday. If somebody follows you around long enough, you're just bound to say or do something stupid, and you got to worry about something like that. They say that the Bills have editorial control, but that's not really true. Some things still end up on the air. Plus, it's NFL films; they have it in their bank. Um, does that concern you a little bit? That potentially something could happen where it becomes a distraction for this team. I mean, this is a team that on paper is really good. They're the only team in the NFL that is literally favored to win all 17 games right now this season. The potential, I mean, the inside access, we're all going to enjoy that. Some funny moments. Some guys are going to shine. It's going to be, we'll learn about some long shot prospects that we barely even know who they are right now. There'll be cool things like that. But are you concerned about the potential for distractions?
I am, and actually, Sean McDermott brought up a really good thing here as far as distractions go. He said the challenge is the authenticity of building trust between players and staff and bringing the team together. That part will be challenged because the cameras will be present. That
Yeah.
authenticity must stay intact, right? Like, I mean, we've heard about obviously some personal stories being shared in team meetings and people being vulnerable to their teammates to try and build that camaraderie. And I know I would be less likely to be vulnerable like that if HBO's cameras are there. So it'll be interesting to see how they walk that line and really just the human aspect in general, right? Like I always think of Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott as far as like talking to players and whether they're cutting a player or demoting a player or whatever. Like it feels to me like they say the right things and do the right things. We're going to get a chance to see that this year, but still, like you're a dude sitting in that room with Brandon Beane getting cut, and like that's hard. And so there's going to be players that we like that we know, or we know as much as fans know, but like that we've been with probably for multiple seasons that are going to get cut at the end of this, and we're going to see that on the camera. And that's going to be hard too.
I'm like you, I also have not really watched full seasons. I've just watched a little bit here, a little bit there,
Mhm.
maybe a couple clips that I've seen on social media as opposed to actually watching it. If anyone's watching or listening, please feel free to either tweet at me or if you're watching on the video side, leave in the comments. I know that there's been some instances where players have gotten in trouble during the summer. It's led to we've watched players get cut because
Yeah.
of off the field things that have happened. We've seen that happen on the show before. I want everyone to let me know if there's something because I want to make sure next time I talk about this that I'm actually armed with some legitimate actual information. But yeah, 100%. That's the one thing I'm not excited about. It's just the potential for distractions or if something goes wrong. I don't want anything to leak into the season because this just feels like to me a team that's primed and as good as anybody right now, maybe in the entire NFL. All right. Anyway, let's take a quick break. Come back. Bills positional groups. Which one concerns Matt Warren the least, or I should say the most? Maybe we'll do the least too. We'll talk about that and plenty more coming up right here after the break. All right, Matt Warren here, SB Nation. We are talking Buffalo Bills, and let's get to the Bills. Well, actually, you know what? Let me ask you a question here before we even get to the Bills positional groups. Kind of unrelated to that, and also unrelated to today, Tuesday being or this week with James Cook clearly not being at OTAs. But I saw a question. It might have been maybe it was Joe DiBiase from GR. I'm not sure. Maybe he put this out there. Somebody did it. I'm kind of piggybacking off this. If it were up to you right now, based on whatever factor that you want it to be based on, who would you, if you were Brandon Beane, who would you want to or work on giving an extension to first? Either Connor McGovern or James Cook. Who would it be for you?
Well, I think both of them have contract offers from the Bills this offseason. So it
Hmm.
wouldn't, that certainly wouldn't shock me. Obviously, they're both unsigned and they both are entering the last year of their contracts. I think it's more likely that they get a deal done with McGovern before they get one done with Cook. And that's not just because I'm the old curmudgeon that does not want to sign running backs to a second contract,
Right.
especially one that puts them in the top five, running backs in the NFL. But McGovern would be signed right now if he was willing to take below market value, like we saw with Khalil Shakir and Terrell Bernard and some of these other deals that came this offseason. So holding out's the wrong word, but he's waiting to sign a contract until the Bills up their offer. Same with James Cook. Um, I would think McGovern's number is probably more palatable for the Bills than James Cook's number, especially because he plays every snap and he's like the quarterback of the offensive line, so to speak. And Spot Track has him at a $7.7 million a year average as far as their market value, which is just slightly higher than the contract he has now. I think it's probably a little low based on the fact that he made the Pro Bowl this year. So I would assume he's going to make more than that. That would put him ninth in the NFL. I would think he wants to be in like the top five after making the Pro Bowl, something like that, as far as centers go. So I don't think either of them are going to get signed this offseason, if I'm being honest. But I would prioritize McGovern.
I'll say this too. James Cook's obviously the highly publicized one. Plus, he's not at OTAs, and Connor McGovern is. But
Yeah.
Connor McGovern also did say not all that long ago when he was on a Cover One show that that they did talk, but nothing was done. He didn't badmouth the Bills or anything like that, but he did, say one of those "it's a business" type deals, and we'll see what happens. My personal observation and interpretation of that was it didn't sound like they were close to getting
Right.
something done. So you're right. There's been offers out there to both, but doesn't seem like either one is particularly close. Uh Selfishly, I'd like to see them both get done. But I'm also kind of cheating because it's what would you do versus what do you think? What I think is there's almost no chance James Cook is getting an extension. I would give him an extension. I don't think there's any, no, I don't say any. There's a very small chance that James Cook's getting an extension for the Buffalo Bills. I do think he is hell bent on being a top three paid running back or something like that here in the NFL, which is wild, Matt, because we could, and hell, man, you know what? We still got a handful of weeks for camp. Maybe we will come up with a chart of the top, say, 20 running backs in the NFL. Where James Cook would slot there, I think could be an interesting conversation, maybe a debate. But I think one thing we would agree on is he's not a top three running back in the NFL. And I think he wants to get paid like he's a top 3 to 5
Yeah.
running back in the NFL. And I do not think it's going to happen with the Bills. Connor McGovern, maybe if the Bills up that offer, maybe they want to see a little bit more from him this year. And maybe they feel like, well, we'll do our best. Well, we got Alec Anderson, we got Van Granger, we got other alternatives there.
Mhm.
We'll get him the market value, maybe a little bit more. But I feel like James Cook, his contract's going to have to be well above what the market value feels like it should be for him and what James Cook wants. They seem to be two things that are radically different, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the franchise tag for next year, it's 14 million
Mhm.
about for a running back. And I don't think the Bills are going to do that.
Right.
But I mean, even that is cheaper than, the money he's going to get in a contract as far as cash $1 million franchise tag under their salary cap next year.
Mhm.
But like, there's options available to the Bills that don't pay him as a top three running back. And to echo your point before, even if he thinks he's a top five running back, even if other teams think he's a top five or top three running back, the Bills don't use him that way. And so, it just might be an example of the team not valuing him as much as another team around the NFL.
I didn't intend to turn this into a James Cook conversation, but
I
it
know.
just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
At what point do you get legitimately concerned about James Cook? I do not expect him to be a mandatory rookie camp or mini camp. That's just my guess. I don't have any inside information. It's purely me speculating. If he's not there, maybe day one he wants to make a statement. If he's not there 3 days in the training camp at St. John's Fisher, is the red flag going up for you at that point? Is the concern officially there? I don't know that he would actually miss games like Hassan Reddick did, but I feel like there could be some issues maybe, which HBO will be there probably to document them again. I don't know
Yeah.
how I feel about, but we were just talking about distractions. James Cook potentially could become a distraction, this contract. At what point do you start to get concerned about James Cook?
If he's not at training camp, I'll be concerned. I fully
Okay.
expect him to be at training camp and not practicing. Those are two different things, right? Like, so if he's holding in, he's at St. John Fisher, but he's not practicing, I'm not concerned. If he's just straight up does not show up to Pittsburgh, that would throw a red flag to me that, this is going to get messy. Um, Other than that, like, I mean, the Tuesday practice before week one, like, if he's at training camp but not practicing, and then like he's on the practice report on Tuesday before week one, I'll be okay. Like that would be the next red flag day for me.
Let me get back to a comment I apparently missed from Sean McDermott. Jay Skursky tweeted this, going back to Joe Bosa again. He said, "It is concerning. Durability, availability are key ties to our roster," McDermott said of Joey Bosa being hurt early into his Bills career. Bosa was working out with the Bills when he got hurt. A Tyler Dunn, he called what he calls a May take quake. I mean, he's got a quake take here for May. Bills need Joe Bosa, Larry Ogunjobi, and Michael Hoyt all firing for the inevitable playoff game against the Chiefs, not necessarily OTAs. Sure, but I'm still concerned. Period. I don't give a nothing is going to make me not concerned right now about Joe Bosa's injury history when he's getting hurt before he even has an OTA with the Bills. Anyway, all right, let's get back to
If he was healthy today, I'd still be concerned about Joey Bosa's health.
Sure, this definitely elevates it, though. I ain't gonna lie, this definitely elevates it. Let me ask you this. All right, so you go through the Bills group positionally right now. Offense, defense. This isn't an OTAs question. This is a Buffalo Bills roster question for now, for the next couple months, all the way through until the start of the regular season. What positional group on this team, as things stand right now, leaves you, well, we could call it concern, we can call it a little uneasy, whatever you want to call it. Where's your biggest pause right now when it comes to the Bills, when it groups positionally? Where are you at?
Sure. Like, I mean, you could say like the defensive line and like the growth and how they're all going to come together, especially now with Joey Bosa's injury. And we already know the suspensions of Hoyt and Ogunjobi. Like, so there's a lot of concerns on that defensive line. Some whispers about the wide receiver room. Don't tell Brandon Bean.
Mm,
But I'm going to look at two other position groups on the defense that I really wanted to focus on. The first one was linebacker and the health of the linebacker position. We, haven't seen Matt Milano go through like an entire extended period of time without an injury in a while. Terrell Bernard was injured last year. And I'm still surprised they haven't added anyone above Balin Spector. So we talk about AJ Klein here a lot, but now that kind of focus has shifted to the guy named Balin Spector. They didn't add anyone in the draft. They haven't signed anyone since then. So that's their plan if more than one linebacker goes down with an injury or needs a breather or whatever. So yeah, Dorian Williams is there to provide some depth, but we haven't seen a Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard like healthy run here in a while, and so the linebacker position, like the depth is a
mm.
little bit concerning for me. And then the safety position, I think we have like a decent floor at that position, but I'm still worried about what that's going to look like, over the course of the entire season. And so, do Cole Bishop or somebody else take a step forward? Um, I like Taylor Rapp more than you do, I think. But like that safety position, and we know we talk about it a lot here, but that those two, safety and linebacker, are kind of like where I'm worried. And I'm just gonna throw, like I talked about linebacker health. I should throw Taron Johnson in there too, since he plays like that quote unquote third linebacker role a lot too. Like
Mhm.
he was hurt last year too. Obviously they have depth behind him that isn't as good as him. So kind of all of that is where I'm looking as far as what I'm most worried about right now.
I'm completely with you on safeties. More on that in
Yeah.
a second. And that's obvious for me. You mentioned linebacker. This caught my eye this morning. Sal put up the Bills 90-man roster right now.
Mhm.
And you look at them positionally. I'm not talking about quality, I'm just talking about quantity. And the linebacking group, there's only 7 linebackers on this 90-man roster
It's
right
like
now. And all of them, except for Keontae Jenkins, an undrafted rookie free agent, are all from last year. So we talk about the Bills running it back on offense. Yo, they're really running. They're legitimately, right now, as things stand, they are running it back at linebacker. I mean, you got Dorian Williams and Dreesen, Olfocio, and Spector, and now Jenkins as your non-starters behind Bernard and Milano. That's it. That might be one of the bigger surprises
yeah.
of the entire NFL offseason for the Bills to me. Certainly the draft, that they did not add a linebacker. And we keep going back to the old, I know a lot of Bills fans or UB fans, Buffalo fans wanted Sean Dolak. And I tell you, kind of made sense. Well, if not him, somebody else. So I am surprised about that. My runner up is actually, I know this might sound, people ain't gonna like hearing this, but I'm defensive tackle right now. Ed Oliver is who he is. All right, he's proven to me. All right, I'm good with Ed. Ed won a lot of goodwill from me because he showed up and played great against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game after what I considered a couple of years of being awful in elimination games before that. But I've already beaten that horse to death, so I'm not going to bring that up. Ed Oliver is in my good graces. I thought he didn't have a great season. Like, he was better in 2023, but he collapsed in the playoffs. This year was kind of a flip a little bit. He was okay, decent in the regular season, and I thought he stepped up when they needed him to in the playoffs. But anyway, my point is, I'm good with him. I think DaQuan Jones is old at this point, and God, I hate saying it that way. It sounds so ignorant to say it that way, but it's kind of what it is. He's not who he was a year and a half ago. He's just not. Age has caught up to him. Age catches up to every player in the NFL at some point. He was, I hate the term jag, but that's literally what he was last year. He was just another dude out there. I mean, he was just another guy. Nothing special about him. And the Bills did not do, well, I shouldn't say that because they did draft somebody who could be kind of tweener guys, though. But anyway, Ed's proven. I'm almost out on DaQuan Jones. I still wouldn't even be shocked if he's not on this roster week one. That's how
Correct.
I feel about him
Yep.
at this point. But after that, dude, you got Dwayne Carter, who did not have a good rookie season. He was hurt, and I'm not giving up on him, okay? But we're saying positions that cause you concern or pause. I ain't
Mhm.
seen nothing from Dwayne Carter that tells me that he's going to be a even decent defensive tackle, let alone a good one right now. So I got to see that from him. And then you got two rookies, TJ Sanders and Deion Walker. Now, look, do I like Sanders and Walker more than I like Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson? Yes. But they're rookies. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's a lot of work to do there to show us that they're going to be something in the NFL. This could be a position where a year from now, I play this clip and we both have a good laugh because the Bills defensive tackles, Sanders is, a guy that was worth trading up for in round two. Walker's a guy that was worth trading up for early in day three. Ed plays well again. Dwayne Carter takes another step. This could be a position of strength a year from now. But right now, today, it concerns me. And then the safeties. You said it. You like Taylor Rapp more than I do. You ain't lying. That's the truth. It's not even that I totally dislike Taylor Rapp. I just think, first of all, he gets hurt too much. And I need somebody out there that I could trust to be out there week to week. And he gets hurt a lot. He also has some friendly fire too. He reckless hurting his own dudes, but I don't know. He's okay. All right. Let's just put it that way. He's all right. He's okay. I can live with him. I
Mhm.
don't hate Taylor Rapp. I don't hate Taylor Rapp out there. I'm just okay with it. Cole Bishop, I don't know how I feel about Cole Bishop right now. So that's why I have some concern. I'm not out on him. I'm not in on him either. Um, people I respect, I've heard some varying opinions on him. I got to see it. You know how do I even need to bring up DeMar Hamlin? You know how I feel about DeMar. DeMar's a guy who should be playing some special teams and chilling on the sidelines the rest of the game. That's how I feel about DeMar Hamlin. And Derek Force is a guy I like,
Mhm.
but is he going to get a realistic opportunity to win a job here on this football team? Is Jordan Hancock going to be a safety too? That's a fun little question to examine. Could he be a Cam Lewis sort of player? I don't know. Maybe is this me being spoiled through all these years of great safety play until the last year or so? I don't know. This position I don't feel strong about.
I don't think it's being spoiled, but obviously having two All Pros back there is better than what the Bills trotted out last year. I mean, there's no avoiding that. I think that there's solid safety play to be had from those guys that you mentioned. Um, Ideally, like I said, we want Cole Bishop to step into that starting role. Taylor Rapp, like I said, I like better than you. Uh, Do we see like even a Derek Forrest like surpassing him and getting into the starting lineup? Like, I mean, I think that's your best case scenario is that Rapp and Hamlin are both on the sidelines while Bishop and Forrest are in the starting lineup. Going back to your defensive tackle take as the backup or your number two, like you didn't even mention the suspension of Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
like some legitimate questions and concerns heading into the season, which could keep Daquan Jones on the roster for that first 6 weeks, even if they don't want to necessarily keep him and could save a lot of money by cutting him. So, there's the Deontay Walker back injury. There's like so many kind of question marks heading into the season, and I think most people, including me, are like, well, they threw a bunch of stuff at the wall and one of the things is going to stick and be okay. But that's not a guarantee. Like, so I do agree with you that defensive tackle has the potential to really be bad this year.
I look, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be hot takey here, but I'll say this. There's a difference between having concern or pause in a position group and saying that they're not going to be good. I could also sit here with a reasonable degree of confidence to say that I don't know that there's a hole on this roster right now. Other than maybe punter, I don't know who's going to be the kick returner this year. I don't really care to be, if I'm being completely honest with you. But when I look at the offense and the defense, I look at a team right now that I don't see holes. I don't. I just don't. I will see a hole if DeMar Hamlin is starting at safety because he could play for the next 20 years and he's going to be exactly what you saw last year. And if you're good with that, congratulations. You saw his ceiling. Okay, I don't know what to tell you, man. But besides that, and I don't think he's going to start for what it's worth, but you never know. Um, I look at a team right now that I just don't see holes in this roster. I truly, honestly don't. Before we get out of here, I got two NFL kind of questions that I want to ask for you. Who do you think this year's every year in the NFL, you have a team that wins a division that didn't win it the year before. Sometimes there's multiple teams. The odds of all 8 teams who won the division last year winning it this year, it might feel like it's a good chance, and maybe it does happen, but I would not bet on that this year. So based on that, who who's this year's best candidate or best candidates to win the division that did not last year? And so everyone knows, it's the Bills, Ravens, Houston, Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, Rams, Tampa. Those were your 8 division winners last year. Who do you see as a team that didn't win it last year that you can see winning it this year?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there's a couple of candidates to go from worst to first too. Like from the last place in their division to winning their division. We've
Hmm,
seen that, over the last few years.
sure.
The 49ers had a really bad season last year. And I don't expect them to be in the toilet again this year. So they could go from worst to first. I think the Bears are a really intriguing candidate for this one too. Um, if you take a look at the Lions, Packers, Vikings, and Bears, your NFC North, right? The Lions lost both their coordinators. We don't know how that brain drain is going to go for the Lions, under new play callers. The Vikings are, resetting with a brand new quarterback who's never taken an NFL snap before. The Packers added a wide receiver. They should be better on paper, but they weren't great last year. They were really good, and that's still good. And then there's the Bears who get Ben Johnson, who gets to install a playbook with Caleb Williams and like do all of these things. And the Bears, I just think, are sneaky. And so I'm looking at that kind of division, the NFC North, where there was a lot of turnover at very important positions, where I could see that being just a complete free for all. But there's almost every division, I could see somebody going from like second to first or third to first.
Yeah.
And I could talk about any divisions that you want.
I have I got one team that I really like, and it's a team that the Bills are playing this year on the road that I don't think a lot of people are, they're just writing it off as last year's team, and I don't think they're gonna be I think they're gonna be much better this time around. That's Atlanta. I
Yeah.
think Atlanta is a good football team with a good young quarterback. I'm trying to look up because I don't even remember last year what the hell their record was. They obviously didn't make the playoffs last year.
Eight,
They were
nine.
8-9 last year. All
Yeah.
right, so
Okay.
it's not like they were awful, but they got a lot of skill position players on offense. They got a good young quarterback. They got 2 defensive linemen that they took in the first round of the draft. So I think their pass rush is going to be much better. They got I think they got Watts. They did. They got my guy Xavier Watts, who I kept singing his praises. Plus, they got
Hmm.
Bates. There's some talent on that defense, and they are in a whack ass division, man. They are in a whack division. 100%. I could see Atlanta being a
Hmm.
divisional winner this year. You do bring up a very interesting point about worst to first, and I agree with you about Frisco too. If you look at the last couple of years, Washington, I'd even go further. Not even just worst in the division, one of the worst teams in the NFL, and then they win their division. We saw it last year with Washington. They had the second pick of the draft, and they
Hmm.
went to the NFC Championship last year. So, hey, shit happens. The year before that, Houston won their division because 2
Yeah.
years before that or a year before that, they were 2-14 and they had the second pick of the NFL draft. So, I don't know, man. Shit happens every single year, but I like Atlanta. A little bit lesser of a surprise because, like you said, a second or third place team you can see winning the division. Green Bay, I think Green Bay puts it together. They can win that division. And Denver, I think I think Bo Nix is for real. And I think Payton's got a good cast around him, good defensive front. I mean, the Bills kind of exploited that this year in the playoffs, but I think that's a team, a young team, some good talent that could easily take the next step. But Atlanta's
And,
definitely my pick.
yeah, the Falcons are on plenty of primetime games, so the NFL clearly agrees with you as well on the
Yeah.
Falcons. Um, I, we've had this conversation a few different times over the course of the last few off seasons. Like, is this year the Chiefs fall off? Is this year the AFC
Mm,
West catches up? So, like, I'm so hesitant to even say anything about the Broncos and Chargers because we've been saying it for multiple years now, and it hasn't happened. But like at some point, like, I think we've started to see the decline of Travis Kelsey. Like, I don't think that's really like a conversation anymore. Like we started to see them go down. They have done some bells and whistles at the wide receiver position, but they're still like the Bills in some ways going cheap at that position and trying to have Mahomes make up for everything. They just traded away one of their best offensive linemen to the
Bears.
Chicago Bears. So like we can keep like poking holes in the Chiefs argument, but until we actually see them take a step back, man, like that Broncos Chargers like still playing for second place, it feels like.
100%. Oh, well, let's kind of flip that conversely. I mean, you kind of hinted at it being Kansas City, but what's a team or maybe two teams that you get a sense right now are primed to have what we'll call flop seasons, like teams that maybe have higher
Yeah.
expectations or were really good last year that you think they're ready to take a step back?
Yeah, I mean the Texans seem like a team that's like that, even though they play in a crappy division, as we talked about with the NFC South. The AFC South is not very good either. And but the Texans traded away their left tackle. They've got Cam Robinson in that position right now. So how are they going to be able to protect C.J. Stroud? Tank Dell won't be back after destroying
Mm,
his knee. They got how is Christian Kirk going to fit in with the Texans now that Stephon Diggs is gone? I think they have a lot of questions there as they move from like plucky upstart to trying to establish themselves as the class of the AFC South. Um, you know, the Seahawks did kind of a hard roster reset this year after the first season with Mike McDonald,
yeah.
almost like the Bills did with Sean McDermott. They made the playoffs in his first season as coach and then missed it the second season. McDonald barely missed it last year. And so they got a new quarterback. They've got like completely new defensive players. They traded DK Metcalf. The Seahawks are very much primed for a step back in order to step forward a year from now. So they're a team that's looking at flops. And then like I don't know if we can even call it a flop, but the Saints and the Browns are going to be so terrible, man. Right? Like I mean, they're
Mm.
just going to be awful.
Two teams on the Bills schedule this year. One at home, New Orleans. One on the road at Cleveland. Look, you said this a few minutes ago. At some point, it's got to be the Chiefs. It just has to. And it's not even, I know it sounds like, and maybe the fan in me emotionally wants it to be. But even if I'm being completely and utterly honest with myself and 100% objective, I truly feel that. At some point, you talked about a lot of their issues. You trade away your best offensive lineman. A year before that, they traded away their best corner to Tennessee and Snead. They keep trading players away. Guys are getting older. Kelsey's getting older. Chris Jones is getting older. And just that division between Denver, I just talked up Denver. The Chargers are a pretty good team too, with a good young quarterback and a hungry coach. It's got to happen sooner or later. I truly feel that this could be the year where the Chiefs, yeah, I'm not going to fall off the face of the earth, but like I'm talking like 10-7, something like that. To me, that's a flop considering the fact that they go to the Super Bowl every damn year. So 10 and
Well, that
7 to me
doesn't
could be a
preclude them
flop.
from going back to the Super Bowl.
Hmm? Sure,
Well,
sure. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like their time is coming. And then you mentioned the other team that was on my other list as my second pick, and that's Detroit, too. Not that I don't think Detroit's
all right.
good, because they are, but they could be in line. They did lose both their coordinators, and they both got head coaching jobs. How is Aiden Hutchinson when he returns for the Lions? That's a question mark, you know? And I just think, unlike I said, the NFC South, just like the AFC South to me is pretty whack. The NFC North is not whack, dude. They're good. Green Bay is good. Minnesota, even with JJ McCarthy, they still got that's a good roster. They're
Mhm.
good. The Chicago Bears got a new head coach, and they've sunk a ton of resources into getting better around Caleb Williams. They could be good this year. They could be that worst to first team, hypothetically, in that division. So that's a good division. So for those
Mhm.
reasons, I would say Detroit would be the team that could fall back. Now again, 10-7. That's sort of a flop regular season by their standards, I would say right
Mhm.
now with their roster. But sure, that's fun. I can't believe Joe
Yeah,
Bosa's
but
hurt. Go ahead.
I do want to talk about the Chiefs thing too. Like
Hmm?
last year, they kept winning games by the skin of their teeth. All those one-score games. Just the law of averages theoretically says that they should lose some of those games some of the time. And so maybe they're all in this year, right? They also, I mean, we've talked about this repeatedly on this show. They have players that step up in the big moments to secure
Yes.
a win. And when Travis Kelsey can't do that, when a Chris Jones that like can't do that anymore, or so like that's the kind of thing. Like, are they replacing the guys that are going to step up in the big moments or not? And so just like I said, the law of averages just says that the Chiefs should lose some of those games and not win all of them. I'm not even saying half. Like clearly, their championship, caliber and a wonderful organization. So they're going to win more of those games than they lose. But like they didn't lose any of those one score games last year.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
They're due. They're due. Last thing, I'm gonna let you go here real quick.
sure.
I saved it for the end. You're a Bandits fan. You've been to the arena.
Ah,
You've watched this team play. How excited was it for you this weekend to see them win eight third in a row? I watched the whole game. I kind of got hooked
same.
on it, man. And like, I'm looking forward next year to watching this team and not jumping on the bandwagon. Like, I want to rock with them from the beginning of the season, but just because I actually locked in for a whole game and it was a lot of fun. I know the intensity and the atmosphere. It's an elimination championship game. I'm sure it's not like that every week, but that show was a lot of fun, man. What were you feeling watching it?
Well, yeah, I tuned in a little bit late because they got bumped off of ESPN2 by the Syracuse getting smacked around.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
won't talk about that one. But so I eventually got over to ESPN News and found it. But I think they were down when I tuned in 1-2, and then they like immediately scored, and then it went
Yeah.
back and forth. It was like they went on that little mini run to like whatever it was 6-3 or 7-3, and then Saskatchewan fought back. And like we get to the end of the first half, and it's a close game. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so fun. And then it turned into like the 1990 AFC Championship game, and the Bandits just absolutely destroyed him in the second half. So it turned into this like I don't know 45-minute long celebration as like the whole like crowd rolled through the realization that they were like not just going to win but run away with it. And so it just turned into this huge party, which I mean it would have been awesome to be there, I'm sure. My son got like once they got up to by like I don't know 5 or 6, he's like, all right, I'll see you later. He didn't even stay and watch the rest of the game. I'm like,
Ah,
this is what you like. This is what you're a fan for, man. Like he's like, yeah, but I know they're gonna win, so I'm happy. I'm like, okay, that's
yeah.
anyway.
I thought that was the coolest part. The coolest part was that the whole last quarter and a half was basically a party. I've said
Yeah,
this on the show the last couple of days. It reminded me of when the Bills were up 41-3 against the Raiders in the first
yeah,
AFC Championship game. It's like you knew it. You knew the Bills were going to, you knew the Bills won the AFC. You knew they were going to the Super Bowl, and all you wanted to do was party, and there was
yeah.
no stress. And that's kind of what the Bandits game was like for the majority of that second half. That was awesome. Anyway, all right, good. It's going to do it for today. The Joey Bosa thing, I'm telling you now, that's going to be the thing that dominates every podcast, every article, every comment from fans who are listening to this show and others. That's going to be the talk. He's going to have to get to camp. He's going to have to show you that he's healthy, start the season healthy, and stay healthy. Otherwise, it's going to be a big talking point. Maybe we'll talk about it some more next week on the show with Matt. But anyway, make sure you follow Matt on Twitter and Blue Sky at Matt Rich Warren. Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure, man.
Have a great.
All right, guys, and I will be back with another episode. Talk to you guys tomorrow.